The afternoon light spilled softly over the narrow streets of Kyoto, golden and calm. Vendors were closing their stalls, children chased shadows, and the smell of roasted chestnuts lingered in the air. Haru Tanaka, a quiet bookseller in his late 30s, was locking up his small shop for the day when he noticed a small figure sitting near the shrine across the street. A girl, maybe 10 years old, her uniform torn, her hands folded neatly in her lap. In her palm lay a single paper crane, creased and a little wet from tears. Haru hesitated. The city was full of people pretending not to see. But something about her stillness drew him closer. "Hey," he said softly. "You okay there?" The girl looked up, her eyes too old for her age. "My mama told me, if I make 1,000 cranes, she'll wake up." Haru's breath caught. He followed her gaze, toward the hospital down the street. The white building stood silent against the sunset. "She's sleeping," the girl whispered. "The doctors said she might not wake. So I'm making cranes. I've made 806. She opened a small cloth bag, filled with paper birds, each folded with tiny, trembling hands. Haru swallowed hard. "What's your name?" "Aiko." "And your mama?" "Reina." He smiled softly. "That's a beautiful name." That evening, Haru walked her to the hospital. The nurses recognized her instantly. They tried to reach her relatives, but there were none. Aiko's mother had been in a coma for weeks after a car accident. The little girl visited every day, folding cranes beside her bed. "She believes the old story," one nurse whispered to Haru. 1,000 cranes grant a wish." That night, Haru went home, but he couldn't sleep. His own house was too quiet. His late wife's sketchbook still sat on the table, open to a drawing of a crane. He sat down, picked up a sheet of paper, and began to fold. 1, 2, 3. By morning, his bookstore was filled with cranes, hundreds of them. The next afternoon, Aiko returned. Her eyes widened as Haru showed her the shop, every shelf and window hung with paper birds. "You helped me," she gasped. He smiled. "We'll finish them together." For the next week, they folded side by side, laughing, sometimes crying, sometimes silent. Customers came in and began leaving their own cranes behind. Soon, the shop glowed with color. By day 8, they had 1,000. Haru packed them into a large basket and carried them to the hospital. Aiko followed, clutching the final crane in her hands, gold paper, folded perfectly. They placed it beside her mother's bed. "That's the last one," Haru whispered. "Now we wait." Days passed. Nothing changed. Aiko stopped smiling. Haru tried to keep her spirits up, bringing her books, telling her stories, but even his words began to fade in the sterile quiet of the hospital halls. Then one morning, as he stepped into the room, Aiko's voice broke the silence. She moved. Her mother's fingers had twitched, barely, but enough to bring tears rushing to the girl's eyes. Haru ran to call the nurse. Machines beeped faster. A soft sound escaped the woman's lips. "Aiko!" Her eyes fluttered open. For a long moment, no one spoke. The paper cranes rustled softly in the breeze from the open window, as if they were breathing too. A month later, Reina was walking again. She visited Haru's bookstore, leaning on her daughter's arm. "You must be the man of miracles," she said, smiling. Haru shook his head. "No, just a man who folds paper." Reina laughed, a sound like wind through spring leaves. As she and Aiko turned to leave, Aiko pressed something into his hand, a small golden crane. "Keep it," she said. "For your wish." Haru opened it gently when they were gone. Inside, written in Aiko's uneven handwriting, were 5 small words. "Thank you for believing too." He smiled through tears, looking at the cranes that still hung around his shop. Maybe the story was true after all. Maybe some miracles needed more than wishes. Maybe they needed hearts willing to fold them, one small kindness at a time.